This weekend began like any other Saturday. Hank woke up later than usual, kissed his wife, to whom he had been married for 17 years. She waved him off languidly, muttering, "Hank, let me sleep. I don't get any peace from you at night or in the morning. And the girls are probably awake by now, and they're grown-ups." "That's right, they're adults. They won't go into their parents' bedroom. Leave me alone, I'm asleep." Hank got up, threw on a robe, and went to take a shower. On the way, he heard a noise and squeaking in the room of the eldest daughter, Alice. As he realized her sister, Gwen, had come in and was dragging her off the bed, he didn't bother them. After washing up, he wiped himself thoroughly, got dressed, and went into the kitchen. His daughters, having had enough, were already sitting at the table. Alice asked, "Are they feeding today? Are you hungry? And we still have to go to school." "Why?" "I don't know, girls. You're on New Year's vacation, you're going to Grandma's. And you're on vacation, and you have a long weekend. It's all Mom's decision. You could make your own breakfast." "We could, but Mom won't let us. She thinks we'd ruin the pots and pans on the fire, and we'll burn everything, and it'll be a food transfer. She only knows how to make scrambled eggs. Do you want semolina porridge or like in England?" "What's in England?" "Oatmeal, sir, or in this case, oatmeal, miss. Daddy will leave the oats for the horses, make semolina, no lumps." "Done and done. Go on, wash your face and brush your teeth, the porridge will be ready in 15 minutes. Hank had finished his daughter's breakfast in no time. At that time, Judy came out of the bedroom and went into the bathroom. The daughters sat down at the table and ate breakfast. Soon, Judy came and washed and combed her hair. Hank looked at his wife, dressed in his shirt. Even after all these years, just looking at her made men excited. Hank recognized that she was beautiful, although every man has a different understanding of a woman's beauty. He loved her, but there was an insurmountable barrier between them. Judy took her place at the table and said to her daughters, "Finish your food and slowly get ready. Today, Daddy will take you to my mom, your grandmother. You'll spend your vacation there. Mom, you promised we'd go to the ski center for a week. We've already prepared our ski suits, and we wanted to celebrate New Year's Eve together. Girls, in life, we don't always get what we want, but we will definitely go to the ski center for spring break, then there will be no snow. Or shall we go to Palmer? They say there in the mountains, snow all year round. Finished, go on, get ready." Hank did not like the annoying sending of the children to his mother-in-law, especially the deception with the trip, for which, frankly speaking, he was preparing himself. He could see some cooling in their relationship. His wife was beginning to pull away from the family. Somehow, it coincided with the arrival of Richard, the new commercial director at her work, and Hank knew he'd met Judy at university, except she hadn't bothered to tell him about her new boss. That worried him, but he believed his wife would find the strength not to sink to the level of an affair with Richard. He even considered meeting him and talking to him, but he decided that doing so would only worsen his relationship with his wife. Nevertheless, he maximized his control over his wife, but as he learned, nothing had happened between them so far, except for some light flirting. His wife's decision today to exile the children to her parents meant that something was going to happen over the long New Year's weekend, and it would probably be announced to them. He was prepared for the conversation, and in order to comprehend what she would tell him, he kept a tape recorder at the ready at all times. When it all began, his tears dried up, and his heart hardened. He saw his wife destroying their family. The most important thing to him today was to keep his daughters safe. Hank understood there would be a conversation today. Judy had to get rid of him somehow. Kira had already warned him about that. What Judy didn't know was this: Hank, before the conversation started, went into the bathroom, washed his hands, turned on the recorder, and hid it in his breast pocket. Afterward, he returned, turned to the kitchen, and sat down at the table. Judy didn't say anything for a minute. Then she looked at Hank, smiled at him, but the smile disappeared immediately. Taking a very serious look, she announced, "Hank, there's something you and I need to discuss right away." The way she said it, there was no doubt that Hank was going to hate this conversation. But he didn't let it get to him and looked away from his food and asked, "Is something wrong?" "Hank, there's nothing wrong. You know I love you. I've loved you and only you for years. You've been a wonderful lover and husband, a great father to our girls. I want to live with you until we're old, yeah, and die on the same day. What's stopping us? You know I'm a sociologist by training. Of those who graduated from our university, only a few work as sociologists. They, with the help of population surveys and mathematical processing of data, find out what really happens in society, reveal the causes of negative phenomena, and give recommendations to improve the situation. Although I work as a marketer, and as a sociologist, I am engaged in marketing research, nevertheless, I closely follow all the news of sociology. Judy, everything is somehow unclear and ornate. Can I have the essence of the question? I've read about what causes marriages to break up, and I want to minimize the likelihood of something bad happening to us. What could happen to us? We need to be as proactive as possible, then we can prevent some quite common pitfalls that lead to failed marriages. Judy, I can tell you've read somewhere another ramblings of some smart guy with a desire to draw attention to himself. I don't believe in such sociological conclusions at all. Tell me, what kind of nonsense are you talking about? Judy snorted indignantly and announced, "Hank, I'm being very serious. I'm worried about our family, that we might lose each other. Our behavior today will cause us to become estranged and eventually end our relationship. As a result, all right, tell me, what should we do? I'm a technical person, not a sociologist. Maybe we should see a psychologist?" I thought about this for a long time, and I've come to the conclusion we need a sabbatical from our marriage while we both explore our interpersonal and sexual nature. We need to get to know other places and people so that when we reunite, we have a much broader understanding and life experience to support our relationship. And how long should all of this go on for? A month? A year? No, I think 2 weeks of holiday weekends would be enough. Is that why the kids are going to your mom's instead of a ski resort? We could send them to your parents' house only. I've already made arrangements with my mom. In other words, in order to spend a long weekend with your lover, you two sociology majors came up with this obvious nonsense to get my consent. Hank was completely stunned by Judy's approach. Her brazen suggestion had shocked him, though he wasn't really surprised, since he'd already guessed it. But her words hurt him. Judy, still not connecting with what Hank had answered, clarified, "I have no idea what kind of lover you're talking about. I know you don't like it, but you'll see that nothing will change between us. I'll make sure you'll be insanely happy when we're reunited. Yes, it's selfish of me, but I have a reason that justifies me. I want to live with you until I'm old. You don't understand that now, but once you do, you'll apologize to me. You don't know which lover I'm talking about. I'm talking about your new commercial director, Richard. You had a great love affair with him at university. Only when he got fed up with you, he dumped you. After that, you quickly switched to me. Now, not a word has been said to me that your former classmate became your commercial director. And you're wrong about everything else too. What am I wrong about? You're wrong to say nothing will change. Everything will change. No, in fact, things have already changed. What has changed? Your attitude towards me and our children has changed. Everything changes in our family today, Hank. I love you, and I don't know what you're fantasizing. I still love you. I don't know how you're going to explain our divorce to your parents, how you'll explain it to Alice and Gwen. What would they even think about their parents' divorce, Hank? What are you talking about? We're not getting divorced, and what happens between us is none of our parents' business. You realize sociology is an exact science. You don't have to make science fit a theory you and your lover made up. I can see that you're going to make it more complicated than it needs to be, so I'm going to postpone it. You take the girls, you come back, we sit down and work it out. Judy, we're not solving anything. I'm just leaving. But you can't do this to me. I can and I will. I'm not going to do what you suggested. I think you'd do the same thing yourself, and I didn't plan anything like you did. My decision to divorce was spontaneous. I just decided it now. But I said I was calling it off. Yes, you did, and then you said that when I got back, we'd sit down and talk about it. So you're going to get me free again this long weekend, and while I'm driving the girls around, you consult with your Richard. Alice came into the kitchen and announced, "Daddy, we are ready to go." "Very good, girls. I'll be ready in 5 minutes." Hank quickly got dressed, grabbed his laptop, hitched up his backpack, and without saying goodbye to his wife, went downstairs. There he started the car, let it warm up a bit. The girls got into the back seat, and they drove off. Judy looked out the window at them, confused. Hank drove carefully onto the big road. Everyone in the car was silent. Finally, Alice said, "Daddy, Grandma lives on the other side of the road." "I know, daughter, but you were promised a ski lodge, and that's where we're going now." "Where will we stay there?" "We'll figure it out, Dad." "Are you and Mom getting a divorce?" "Why would you say that, Dad? We heard you guys fighting in the kitchen today." "And I'm on your side," added Gwen. "I'm on Dad's side too, but where are we going to live?" "Girls, we're staying at my mom's house. I'll drop you off at school. I'll pick up your books and your clothes. In the meantime, let's get all the stupid thoughts out of our heads and go on vacation. You deserve it." Judy looked away from the car, grabbed her cell phone, and started calling Richard, who answered right away. "Richard, it's Judy. I have a problem." "Don't worry, I'm alone." "Has your wife left yet?" "She's on her way tonight. She just went to the store. She's probably on her way." "What's going on?" "He didn't act the way we thought he would. He didn't believe me." "Who are you talking about?" "My husband. I offered him, as we agreed, to break up for 2 weeks, and did he? Turns out he knows about you and our relationship at the university. He said he's getting a divorce. That's bad. It'll cause a huge scandal. It'll get out to the office gossips, and from them, it'll go to Kira." "Kira? I'm not interested in divorcing my wife." "You've never been interested. You tell me, what am I supposed to do now?" "What's your husband's back already?" "No, he has to take his daughters to my parents and then come back. I'm sure he'll come home. And he's not going anywhere. Tell him you've decided there's no temporary separation." I told him, he didn't believe me. He thought I was going to convince him to go along with what I suggested when he got back. "When will he be here?" 3 or 4 hours, I think." "That's what we'll do. Tell him you've made your decision, and there's no breakup. What we need to do now is put this outburst out of his system, and under no circumstances can it get to our office. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to get in there." Judy ended the call. Now that she had Richard's support, she was relieved. She thought about it and, remembering the saying that the way to a man's heart was through his stomach, decided to set the table. And to avoid the hassle of cooking, she got dressed and went to a cafe, where she ordered a few takeaways. She took out a bottle of wine, put a corkscrew next to it, set down 2 glasses, put the appetizers she bought in the microwave oven, and went into the hall. She turned on the TV and sat down in an armchair. She wondered whether this short-term affair with a former lover was worth the breakup of the family. After all, now to convince her husband of something will be incredibly difficult, and it's not clear what he knows about her and Richard. She shouldn't have told her husband about her fellow student becoming a commercial director. She knew he'd find out sooner or later. And now it turned out that Hank knew that she was dating Richard and that he had left her. It's true then. Richard just disappeared, and then he shows up. When Judy found out he was going to be their commercial director, she suddenly melted. She knew it was just a fling, nothing more. Her first one-on-one conversation with him confirmed it. He said, "Judy, I have always liked you, but I cannot risk and ruin my family. Although I am not ready to refuse to meet with you, it would have to be very secret." You're married too, for all I know. And life showed her how foolish her decision had been. Although they, during the conversations in the study, underlined their idea of scientific basis, but it turns out they'd understudied something. 4 hours passed, and Hank was gone. He should have been here by now. Judy dialed her mom's cell phone. She didn't answer right away, but she answered, "Daughter, I'm listening." "Hello, Mom. I thought I'd call and see how you're doing. What's going on?" "It's winter in the yard. It gets dark early. We're sitting with my grandfather, arguing." "Why are you arguing?" "Just out of habit, the old man's way. He had a drink, and I wouldn't let him, but he found where I hid the bottle from him." "And you, how are you? When will you bring your granddaughter to visit?" Judy knew from talking to her mom that Hank hadn't been there. After she finished talking to her mom, she called Hank's parents back. His father, a retired military officer, answered. "Judy, I'm listening." "Hello, Stanislav Fedorovich. I thought I'd call and see how you're doing." "Judy, don't lie. You're looking for Hank with the kids. He warned us about this." "So he was at your place?" "No, he didn't come. He called, said you were getting a divorce." "That's ridiculous. Nobody's getting a divorce." "I agree. We had a misunderstanding, but we're not getting divorced over something like that." "I understand that. It's not just between you two. It's what's going on between you and some man from your work, Stanislav Fedorovich." "What did he say?" "He said that this morning at breakfast, you asked him to break up for 2 weeks. When he didn't agree, you said you canceled this temporary separation, but you'd discuss it when he got back. Is that it?" "No. Hank said he had enough discussion, and he'd made the decision to divorce, and in the meantime, he'd gone off to discuss nothing, and he'd be gone for the rest of the long weekend, so you can go on your planned date, although he assumed you were still at home waiting for him to discuss this building of his horns. But I don't have any dates planned, Stanislav Fedorovich. What are you talking about? There will be no divorce." "That's what you think. I know my son, and you don't seem to know him. I just need to explain everything to him, and he'll realize he was wrong." "Whatever. If he calls, I'll tell him." Judy dialed Richard's cell phone, and suddenly a woman answered, "I'm listening." "Excuse me. I'm looking for Richard." "Who are you?" "My name is Judy. We work together." "Oh, I know. Tell you what, sweetheart. I kicked him out, and don't call him. He doesn't have a phone." "Is something wrong?" "You don't know. I changed 2 cities because of this philanderer and womanizer, but I'm not leaving here. I like this new house." "Where's Richard?" "How should I know? I kicked him out. Maybe he's at your place. He doesn't know where I live. Besides, why should he be at my place? He knows everything, including where you live, and you have to have him because he's having an affair with you at work. But he wasn't the only one with you. And what plans he had, he planned to meet all of you while I was on vacation, except I wasn't going anywhere. Hank and his daughters were going to a ski resort out of town. He knew some of the staff there, called one of them on the way. It turned out that Mark, a former classmate of his, went up the mountain and became the director of the base. After explaining the situation to him, Hank asked to shelter him and the girls for the winter vacation, to which Mark replied, "Hank, anything for you. A house for 3 people, that's a dream come true." "Good. I have a company waiver in 3 cabins available. I'll reserve one for you." "That'd be great, but there is a request. If someone calls, do not give confirmation that I'm with my daughters at this base vacation." "Okay, I'll reserve that cabin for you. When are you coming?" "I've got about 50 kilometers to go, in about an hour and a half." "I can't go fast, it's slippery." "Fine. I'll set the table in your cabin. At the entrance, tell them you're here to see Mark, they'll show you." An hour and a half later, they arrived at the gates of the ski lodge. They told the guard at the entrance that they had arrived at Mark's place, and he showed them where to go. At the lodge, there was an open parking lot that had a roof. Hank put the car there. They took their things and went into the house. Mark was sitting at the table. When he saw the guests entering, he exclaimed, "Come quickly. Everything on the table is getting cold. You're always in a hurry. Let my girls clean themselves up, wash their hands, take a look around. 2 bedrooms upstairs and 1 here on the first floor," Hank said. Alice and Gwen, grabbing their things, went to the second floor. Soon, a heated argument broke out there over the rooms. Listening to them, Mark said, "They should have run up there for nothing. This house is for 4, so you have a bed for 2 and your own shower downstairs. My girls have made us a kebab. Drop your stuff and come on, let's get together." "What's your hurry?" Hank asked. "My wife and sister are coming tomorrow. They won't let me have a drink." "You've never had a drink." "I don't drink. Now, I could set up a table at the cafe, but I work here and I don't want my employees to see me drunk. Besides, I'm an athlete." Hank and Mark were sitting at the table when Alice and Gwen came down from upstairs. As a result of the argument, the older sister conceded to the younger sister the room they thought was better. They had already changed into tracksuits. Beautiful girls are growing up. "Where's Judy? Why didn't she come?" Hank inquired. "That's a separate question. I'll tell you later. Let's drink to the meeting," Mark suggested. "You're so eager and slow," Hank chuckled. The friends drank to the meeting and snacked indulgently, reminiscing. They were occasionally interrupted by Hank's daughters asking questions. Eventually, having had enough, Gwen asked Mark, "What other entertainment is there at the ski lodge?" "There's a dance party going on in the hall right now." "Oh, we didn't bring anything for the dance." "There is no dress code, that is, no rules governing the form of dress." "You can come too." "I'll call my employee, and he'll take you there," Mark offered. Mark called, and 5 minutes later, a young man came running in to pick up Alice and Gwen. After they left, Mark asked, "What's up with your wife? Decided to get a divorce? Why would you do that? Do you remember when I was dating her? There was a rumor that she already had a lover." "Yeah, there was talk, but nothing concrete." "Well, this young man shows up in our town, and what's more, he becomes the commercial director of the company where Judy works. They began an emotional affair, which I didn't notice at first. But he has a wife, Kira, who has decided to divorce her husband. She was the one who informed me of what was in store for me, and then today it happened." "She cheated?" "No, they've worked out that for the long weekend, we shouldn't vacation together, and it's supposedly to preserve our marriage into old age. I've always distrusted sociologists. Sociology is when people who don't understand anything about society do some research and then force everyone to live by the laws they supposedly discovered, when in fact, they just made them up." "You're right about that. They made them up. For me, what did you decide?" "When I talked to her, I realized that further life will be simply impossible and decided to divorce." "So, what now?" "Nothing. I'm just going to figure out how to do it. I'll tell you what, a company is coming here tomorrow, they're lawyers. They have an office in the center. I'll ask them to help you. Now, come on, pour a drink." Alice and Gwen came home from the dance at 11 o'clock at night. A member of the ski center staff was very attentive to the director's errand and escorted them to the lodge. Hank organized a late dinner for the girls. They shared a snack together and went to their rooms. Hank sat on his bed, barely holding back tears. Today had been a very difficult day for him. He couldn't forget everything Judy had done. Turning on the tape recorder, he listened to the recording and decided that in the current situation, he had made the only right decision. Judy never waited for her husband, and she didn't know where he might have gone with her daughters. But she remembered that he had said that promises should be kept, and they had promised him a trip to the ski lodge. So that's where he went, and they probably had reservations made in advance. She turned on the computer on which Hank usually worked and, after much searching, found no ski lodges in the area he had researched or discovered. In the morning, Hank opened his eyes when there was a knock on his door. "Come in," he said. His daughters flew into his room, squeaky and noisy, with a proposal. "Daddy, get up. Let's have breakfast and go to the hill skiing, and then we can go to the skating rink." "There's a skating rink here?" Hank asked. "Yes, and breakfast." "Where?" "In the cafe." "Wash up. I'll be ready in 5 minutes." They went to the cafe, had breakfast, then, after changing their clothes, they rented skis and took the elevator up the mountain. They skied until lunchtime. In the afternoon, having changed clothes, they went to the cafe again. There they met Mark and his wife. In the meantime, Mark said, "The company we talked about has arrived. Among them, there is a specialist in divorce cases." I told the situation, and he agreed to help. "Meet me in my office today. There's a computer, a printer, everything you need. I'll take your girls and my wife and her sister to the skating rink tonight, if you don't mind. We'll meet at my place. The girls want to go dancing again. We'll go with them, we'll dance, and then we'll come back to our place. And if you haven't forgotten, tomorrow is New Year's Eve. We have to get the liver ready for the holiday." Everything worked out. After lunch, Fodor and Hank went to his office. Soon, a pretty woman arrived. She was a lawyer. They sat down in Mark's office and discussed everything. Maria explained to Hank the current legislation, which he knew rather superficially. She discouraged him from taking ill-considered actions with the apartment, explaining, "Understand, your girls will grow up and have their own families, and then they will have to solve the issue of housing. And so they will have their own rooms. And if you now, with them, go to the apartment, then there may be a new husband. Then the courts will become more expensive and complicated. But I can't imagine living with her in the same apartment. Try to imagine it and offer her a petition. And first, explain to your wife that you are filing a petition for dissolution of marriage in court. And when will the application be ready? There's no rush. The courts have long weekends too. I have my laptop with me. I'll prepare it for you. Then we'll print it out. Other than that, you can contact me at my office, or you can invite me to represent you in court." I like that last one. Hank and his daughters welcomed the new year with Mark, his wife, her sister, and the big hall of the ski lodge. They were joined by a company of lawyers. In addition, there were many other vacationers there, enjoying music, fun, and dancing. It was getting late in the morning, but Hank took his daughters to the cabin early. They were tired and pecking their noses. They wanted to sleep. Hank returned to the company, and after the main hall was finished, they gathered in his cabin. They sat around the fireplace and then went to their cabins. The rest went on as planned, skiing, skating, dancing in the evenings. At the end of the day, Mark asked a question, "Hank, how are you feeling? Apart from the fun of the day, there were nights during which I cried all my tears. Today, I'm more ready for a confrontation than ever." The day came when Hank and the girls packed up for the return trip. He had a talk with them beforehand, explained that they shouldn't lose their apartment. They stopped by the mall, got groceries, and got home when it got dark. Alice and Gwen immediately hid in their rooms and started moving things from Gwen's room to Alice's room. Just then, Judy appeared and asked, "What are you guys up to?" "Gwen's room is going to be Dad's room now, and Gwen and I will share a room." "But why?" That's what Hank said. That's a rhetorical question. What do you mean, rhetorical? It means this and that. You, as an expert sociologist of murky theories, know better. Just in case, I warn you, I will not tolerate any of your lovers in the house. You can hang out wherever you want. Just so you know, I'm filing for divorce. When the moving of things and furniture was finished, the girls began to get ready for school. Hank walked into the kitchen and began preparing dinner and breakfast for the morning. Judy came in next and struck up a conversation. "Hank, what's wrong with you? Why did the man I love to disappear? Have you stopped fighting for me? Fight? You're crazy. My heart has been destroyed by you, by what you planned. I hope everything worked out and you had a great weekend with your Richard. Or did he throw you out again? Family life is not about fighting. It's about mutual respect and trust, not about planning temporary separations. Hank, you're wrong again. I said I was canceling the temporary separation and offered to discuss it. And I decided I'd had enough of empty discussions and walked away. I don't trust you now. Out of the way, I have kids to feed, but I have something to feed them, and I don't. No matter how Judy tried, Hank no longer responded to her. She walked into the girls' room. Alice sighed and said, "We should ask Daddy to put a lock on it." Alice, Gwen, don't you want to see me? You guessed it. You know I haven't missed you. And you're, Gwen, Alice, get out of my way. I'm getting ready for school. For the rest of the week, Hank, Alice, and Gwen lived apart from Judy, deliberately ignoring her presence. Hank put locks on the doors of the rooms they occupied. He cooked his own breakfasts, lunches, and dinners for himself and his daughters. On Friday evening, the bell rang. Judy went to answer the door. A pretty young woman handed her a registered letter with a notice. It was a subpoena. Attached to the summons was a statement of claim. After familiarizing herself with its contents, she ran into the kitchen where Hank and his daughters were having dinner and, sobbing, asked, "Hank, why the divorce? I thought things were going to work out. I suggest you get a lawyer, talk things over with him, talk to your lover, maybe he can give you some advice. I don't have anyone," and Richard disappeared. He hasn't worked since New Year's Eve. The girls had already eaten dinner, got up, and went to their room without saying a word to Judy. Judy continued, "Hank, I love you and our girls. How can you not understand that? Why do you hate me? What does my love for you have to do with it? I loved you, but only until I found out you decided to cheat on me with your old boyfriend, who you didn't even tell me about. I realized it was stupid to love you. I wanted to talk to you, and you didn't come home. You want to talk? Okay, go ahead, tell me about your fake weekend. How did you plan to spend it? It's been a while since I've heard your fantastic sociological conclusions from your buddy. Tell me your new stories. And how did you spend your weekend? Did you enjoy it? I think it was cool that your buddy disappeared once again. Come on, let's talk about it. Hank, that's not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about us. I'm sorry. I thought you were going to fill me in on some new sociological theory you and your beau discovered. But you know I'm not interested in any of that. You can only talk about us in the past tense. We're not in the present tense anymore. And you did it. Hank finished dinner and gathered the dishes into the sink. Hearing the clatter of cups, Alice came in and said, "Daddy, it's my turn to do the dishes today. I just put them in the sink. Did you do your homework?" Of course, I did my homework right after I got home from school, and Gwen did it too. You know what? Why don't you go up to your room and clean it up? I'll do the dishes, and then I'll iron your clothes. They're already dry. Judy, seeing that she was completely ignored in the conversation and did not want to talk to her, cried and went to her room. Hank quickly washed the dishes, turned out the light, and went to his room, where the laundry that he had washed during those days was piled up and needed to be ironed. Before going to bed, Hank went into the kitchen. There, in the darkness, sat Judy. Seeing him, she said, "Hank, none of what happened was planned. It just happened. I was seeing Richard at university, and then he suddenly disappeared. No, I wasn't teased about it. Few people knew we were dating, and few people knew he dumped me. Suddenly he showed up at our place of business. We began to socialize as part of our work activities, and one day he invited me to lunch. At first, it was just lunch, nothing more. Then something changed. But he told me right away that no questionable meetings. Everything had to be elaborate and preclude our dates being discovered by our spouses. I agreed, as I realized this was an affair with no follow-through. This temporary separation was supposed to be our first date, and that's why you made up this nonsense. You decided to put on my ears. I didn't realize how it had gotten this far, and I agreed to Richard's proposal. Judy, can't you see he was just playing you? Can you really be that stupid? No, it's just that it's been so long since I've heard you compliment me on my good looks, my clothes, my modern hair. Judy, don't put all that on me just because I haven't told you every day how good you look. Doesn't excuse your affair. So today you're ready to have an affair with anyone who says nice things to you. Hank spent the next few days preparing for a meeting with child welfare officials. According to his attorney Maria, it was inevitable. Their opinion for the court was, in fact, decisive, although the opinion of the children was also taken into account. Hank had a lot to do in a short period of time, and at night when he was alone, he could not sleep for a long time, thinking on the theme of love and betrayal, sorting out his feelings. The most important person in his life had betrayed him, and now he felt anger and pain. All he wanted today was a divorce, which was out of the question. He already knew for sure that he could no longer trust Judy. This marriage of his was going down in history. Hank needed to think about the children as well. He felt a little guilty that the children had turned their backs on their mother and ignored her completely. Judy had told him in one of their conversations that regardless of what had happened between them, the children had nothing to do with it, and today she argued that they, for the sake of the children, needed to stay married, that the children would be better off if they tried to make their marriage work, to which Hank replied, I believe that children need to know that their parents love them, no matter what. Our girls are not to blame for what happened. That said, they are old enough to make their own assessment of us, and you have to consider. I didn't say anything to them. They just heard when you were ragging on me about temporarily breaking up for a long weekend and judged everything correctly. Hank, children can't make a proper assessment of what happened. They have no life experience or understanding of life. Judy, I am proud of our kids. They figured out very quickly what was going on between us and your lover. They discussed it amongst themselves, and I don't think their decisions came easy to them. When we left, they were incredibly angry with you. Talking to them changed my plans for the long weekend and, in fact, all my plans for the rest of my life. Girls know more about what's going on than you think. Do girls hate me? For someone with a sociology degree, you're pretty understanding. I didn't expect that. Yes, they know their mother is a cheater, and yes, they hate you for it. You can try to make peace with them, of course, but as a sociologist, you studied the section of psychology that deals with the study of patterns of human behavior and activity. Hopefully, you know what adolescence is. Between the ages of 10 to 11 and 15 to 16, to refresh your memory, I'll tell you. It is called transitional. Children are moving from a childlike model of behavior to an adult one. They are experiencing serious physiological changes. How you'll be able to approach them, I don't know. All the time before they met in court turned into pleading and entreaties. Finally, they met in the courtroom. The session was preliminary. They were given a period of time to reconcile. When it was over, Hank suggested that Judy enter into a divorce child custody agreement. At his suggestion, the girls would remain with him in his custody. Judy, after listening to everything that was said, stated, I will not sign any agreement. Then I'll have to take it to court. Bring it up. The court will listen to me, invite the girls, and hear what they have to say and make a decision. You realize it won't be in your favor. You don't know that. The court's decision can be appealed. Well, good luck, Hank. I realize I've been a fool. I know what I was trying to do was wrong. But please understand, I love you, and I will never have Richard in my life again. You've decided to replace him with another man. Well, that's your own business. It's your life. Look, don't hang on to your words. You're a sociologist. You're a sociologist now. If you'll excuse me, I'm a little busy. If you decide to sign the agreement, it must be done in front of a notary, Hank's lawyer, who was present during the conversation, said. Hank Stanislavovic, as a general rule, an agreement to determine the residence of children does not require mandatory notarization. This is how it differs from the alimony agreement, which has the force of a writ of execution. Although yes, it is recommended to draw up and notarize this document. Thank you, but she doesn't want to sign anything, and I don't need to. It's just that she won't get anything as a result. The court's deadline for the parties to reconcile had passed. Judy made desperate attempts to reconcile with her daughters, but she failed. The daughters, after school started, computer science at school, they returned home with their father. After a light snack, often in their father's room, they sat down to do their homework. At this time, Hank prepared dinner and breakfast for the morning. On one such day, the child welfare authorities came to visit them. They talked to the girls, looked at their room, drew up a report. They arrived at the court hearing on time. Hank, with the girls, clarified some questions with the lawyer. Judy went into the hall, sat down in her seat. She did not have a lawyer, but she had consulted in counseling and divorced friends and clearly understood the marriage she could not save. During the trial, she answered the court's questions with a simple yes or no without elaborating. At the end of the trial, Judy announced that she was giving up her share of the apartment in favor of her daughters and handed over the deed of gift through the judge. She had already checked out and had removed some of her personal belongings from her room. What was left she would take away within a week. Asked for a recess in court so she could sign the children's agreement proposed by Hank. After the recess, she additionally stated, "I am willing to voluntarily pay child support to Hank because I understand that the court's decision will not be in my favor," to which Hank responded, "So that there is no doubt where the money I received as child support went, I suggest that the defendant open a separate account for each of her daughters and transfer the money there. I think when they grow up they will need that money." The judge heard the parties and answered, alimony and the division of the apartment were not claimed in the statement of claim, and the court will not consider it. As for the child support agreement and the divorce itself, these issues will be decided. The court withdrew for decision. Soon Hank and Judy walked out of the courthouse divorced. The girls, who had been removed from the room after their court hearing, were sitting on a bench near the bus stop, eating ice cream. Seeing this, Hank turned to them, "Girls, what are you doing?" "We're eating ice cream. It's freezing outside. Couldn't you wait till you got home?" "We took it home too, and we know that ice cream in winter is not harmful to health and can even cure your throat." "But it's a paradox." "No, Dad, the paradox is that ice cream makes it easier to catch a cold in the summer. Ice cream doesn't melt and flow as fast as it does in the summer." "Okay, what did the court decide?" "The court divorced us. You're staying with me. Mom will open a bank account for you and pay you child support voluntarily, but you'll be able to use that money when you turn 19. "Why 19 years old?" "Because that's what we decided." Judy did vacate the apartment as promised. She moved in with her parents, where she needed to take care of her sick mother, with Hank's consent. Once a week, she took her daughters there, though Alice and Gwen were reluctant to go. And once a week, Judy took the time to visit her daughters at their place of residence. Epilogue. Hank had been alone for a long time. On New Year's Eve, he and his grown-up girls were again on vacation at the ski resort, practically in the same company as Mark's wife's sister, Katja. They began to meet, but Hank was in no hurry to make a proposal. For him, the main thing in life were his daughters, who still had to be brought up and taught. Katja had no children, but she got along very well with Alice and Gwen, although there was some jealousy on the part of the girls. Hank treated Judy well, allowed her to visit her daughters, and kept in touch with her, but they were no longer husband and wife or friends. Alice and Gwen grew up without causing difficulties for Hank, who surrounded the girls with fatherly love and care. The arrival of Katja in their lives only brought their family closer together. Judy had a difficult year. Her parents died almost one after the other. Hank helped her with the funeral, but her grief did not bring them closer together. Judy lived alone for a long time, socializing only with her daughters. Then she started dating a lonely man who lived in a neighboring house. He was a widower. The missing Richard never showed up in town. No one knew where he had gone, and neither did his wife, Kira, who had married immediately after the divorce. Thank you for joining us today on Deep Stories. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.